Hello, St. Peter's. It is good to be coming to you again for these 5 good minutes. This time in our week when we look back at the scripture that we talked about on Sunday. And if you were there for the sermon, we focus a lot on what how to live that out in our lives. And if you missed it, then it's just a real quick summary of the things we talked about. And you can always hear the whole sermon if you'd like on our website. But this week, our scriptural focus was on Esther, and really specifically on how the stories that we tell ourselves or the voices that we listen to really affect who we are and what we do and how God uses us. So if we just think about your and my life, right? People have said things to us, either positive, encouraging, loving, or negative, unfortunately, that happens too, that have shifted the whole course of our life, have made such an indelible mark on us of who we think we are and what we're capable of, that it moves us. The voices we listen to matter. Or if you think even about just something like news media, right? Whether you listen to Fox News or MSNBC or social media or whatever other source you tend to gather information from is going to have a huge effect on what you think is going on in the world and whether it's good or bad. The voices we listen to affect us tremendously. So we looked at the story of Esther, and I'm not going to retell the whole thing, but you have Esther, a woman who is, in the eyes of society, in the eyes of King Xerxes, really only valued for her looks, right? She wins this huge beauty contest, that's it. That's what everybody is telling her is important and valuable to you and how you're going to make a mark in this world. But she has this uncle, kind of uncle character, not exactly an uncle, but named Mordecai. And he realizes that God has put her in this close position to the king for a completely different reason, for a noble reason, a reason of God to help save the Jews in that time. And he encourages her to say, you have to go to the king. And, you could be there for such a time as this, right? For such a time as this, God has put you exactly in the place that you are, not to just fulfill what culture or society has for you or what they think is valuable, but for God's purposes. And we talked about how she was very smart, but eventually she convinces the king that the action of wiping out all the Jews would be horribly wrong. There's a twist. The villain of the story, Haman, then therefore is killed instead. And, it's a beautiful story. But the real question for us going forward is first, and I really want you to think about this week, what voices do you listen to about who you are and what your value is and what your mission in life is? It is my strong contention that, agreeing with Mordecai, right, that God has each of us where we are for a reason. It's not just coincidence. It's not just that you happen to grow up here, but who you're surrounded with. But have those eyes to see, what would God call me to in my kingdom area of influence? Why does God have me there? In my job, in my neighborhood, right? In my school, if you're still a student, with my classmates. Why am I sitting next to this person that I may not even know? God has a reason and a mission for each of us. What do you think yours is? Also, think about, we talked about being a Mordecai or having a Mordecai, right? Somebody who challenges us to see beyond what everybody else is going to encourage us towards and say, who is that person in my life who's speaking into my life, probably making my life harder, right? It's always easy just to float with culture and go downstream, but this is the person who's going to say, no, I want to challenge you to step out of that box, to row against the current. I want to encourage you to follow God in these areas that aren't going to be the easy ones, aren't going to be the places we already agree, but that Scripture is pretty strong in. So who's the Mordecai in your life? And who are you being a Mordecai for? Because there's a truth about life that sometimes doesn't seem obvious, but we all know it, which is that the life of pursuing ease is not a life that's very interesting. Right? That's not where we find our value and our purpose and our drive, right? We find it when we do the hard things that are worth doing. Because there's a truth about life that sometimes doesn't seem obvious, but we all know it, which is that the life of pursuing ease is not a life that's very interesting. Right? That's not where we find our value and our purpose and our drive, right? We find it when we do the hard things that are worth doing. You know, I still have a really good friend who has been a Mordecai for me, and at different points in my life has challenged me to say, you know, this thing, you're really not doing it right, or your relationship with this person really needs to be benefited. And I have nothing but gratitude and love for this brother who speaks truth into my life. We all need that. We all need Mordecais. We all need Esthers. We are the Esthers, right? We all need to say, why am I here? And how can I make a difference? So that's my encouragement to you this week, church. Think about, who are we listening to? What are they encouraging us towards? What is God encouraging us towards? And how can I execute that in my life? So think about those things. I hope to see you on Wednesday for our community night. We only have a few left, so let's treasure them up. And then also hope to see you next Sunday when we welcome the Skinners, our missionaries to South Africa. It will be wonderful to hear from them. See you then, church.